My girlfriend confessed she cheated. With a smirk, she said, I needed a real man. To my surprise, my friends took her side. I didn't argue. I just smiled, grabbed my keys, and walked out. This morning, I woke up to 21 missed calls on my phone. It started 3 weeks ago, when Veronica began working late. Again. Her explanations got vaguer each time. Big project, she'd say, avoiding eye contact. When I offered to bring her dinner, she'd snap that I was being clingy. The signs were everywhere, but I chose to ignore them. Her phone constantly buzzing with messages she'd quickly hide. New lingerie appearing in her drawer, sexy stuff she never wore for me. Coming home smelling like cologne that wasn't mine. When I mentioned it, she'd roll her eyes and claim I was being paranoid. You're being insecure again, she'd say. It's exhausting. I started questioning myself. Maybe I was being paranoid. Maybe I was insecure. After 3 years together, didn't I owe her the benefit of the doubt? Wasn't trust supposed to be the foundation of a healthy relationship? I'd catch myself checking her phone when she showered, feeling guilty afterward. I'd analyze every conversation, looking for hidden meanings. The worst part was how she made me feel like the problem for noticing obvious changes in her behavior. You're acting crazy, she'd say when I asked about the late nights. This is why I don't tell you things. You overreact to everything. So I stopped asking. I stopped checking. I convinced myself I was being the understanding boyfriend she needed. Friday night, she came home at 2 a.m. with disheveled hair and smudged makeup. Her lipstick was gone, her blouse wrinkled, and there was a hickey on her neck she tried to hide with her hair. When I asked where she'd been, she laughed bitterly. Out with someone who actually satisfies me. The words hit like ice water. What's that supposed to mean? She dropped onto our couch, the one we'd picked out together last year after hours of debate about fabric and color, and looked at me with pure contempt. I'd never seen that expression on her face before. It was like looking at a stranger wearing my girlfriend's face. I've been seeing Trevor for 2 months. He's everything you're not. Confident, successful, a real man who knows how to take charge. Trevor, my coworker from the marketing firm. The guy who'd been asking about Veronica's schedule with what I'd thought was friendly interest. The guy who'd offered to help her with her career whenever I mentioned her name. The guy who always seemed to know when she'd be at company events. It all made sense now. The puzzle pieces I'd been ignoring suddenly clicked into place. You've been cheating, I said, more statement than question. Finally figured it out? She smirked like this was some kind of game she'd been winning for months. Honestly, I'm impressed it took you this long. Everyone at work knew. The secretaries, the partners, even the janitor probably figured it out before you did. Everyone knew. The weight of that settled in my chest like a stone. All those lunches where conversation stopped when I walked by. All those knowing looks I dismissed as paranoia. All those times people seemed to be laughing at some inside joke I wasn't part of. How long? I asked. I told you. 2 months. No, how long has everyone known? She shrugged. Trevor's not exactly discreet. He likes showing off his conquests. Conquest, that's what I was to her now. A conquest to be discarded once someone better came along. Why? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Because you're weak, she said, examining her nails like this conversation bored her. You let people walk all over you. Trevor would never tolerate that. He's a provider, a protector, things you'll never be. I provided for you, I said quietly. I paid for this apartment, your car payments when you were between jobs, that vacation to Mexico you posted about for weeks. With your pathetic salary? She interrupted. Trevor makes 6 figures. He drives a BMW. He took me to restaurants I could never afford with you. Real restaurants. Not those sad little diners you think are romantic. Each word was a knife twist. Not just because of what she was saying, but because of how she was saying it. Like she'd been holding in these complaints for years, just waiting for the right moment to unleash them. 3 years, I said. 3 years we've been together. 3 years I've been settling, she corrected. 3 years I've been waiting for you to grow up, to become ambitious, to show some backbone. Trevor did all of that in our first conversation. I stared at her. This woman I'd loved for 3 years. The woman I'd planned to propose to next month. The ring was still hidden in my sock drawer, a $3,000 engagement ring I'd saved for months to buy, a ring that would never leave that drawer now. Get out, I said. Excuse me? Get out. This is my apartment. My name's on the lease. Pack your things and leave. She stood up, suddenly less confident. For a moment, I saw uncertainty flicker across her face. You can't just kick me out? I live here too. Actually, I can. Check the lease if you want. Your name isn't on it because your credit was too bad to qualify, remember? That hit home. I could see it in her eyes. Fine, she said, recovering her composure. Trevor's place is nicer anyway. Better view, better neighborhood. You know where successful people live. She started gathering her things with exaggerated indifference, making sure to slam drawers and cabinets as she packed. Every action was designed to hurt me one more time. You'll regret this, she said as she stuffed clothes into a suitcase. When you're alone in this pathetic little apartment, wondering why no woman wants to stay with you, remember that you had someone who tried to help you become better. Help me? I almost laughed. By cheating? By showing you what you could be if you weren't so comfortable being mediocre. I called my best friend Dante, needing someone in my corner. Instead, he sighed when I explained what happened. Look, man, maybe she has a point. You've always been too nice, too passive. Maybe this is a wake-up call. She cheated on me, I said, incredulous. Yeah, but why did she need to? When's the last time you planned something exciting? When's the last time you stood up for yourself about anything? The betrayal stung worse than Veronica's confession. My best friend since college was taking her side. Are you seriously defending her right now? I'm not defending anyone, Dante said. I'm being real with you. You've been coasting, brother. Comfortable job, comfortable life, comfortable relationship. Some women need more than comfortable. So I deserve to be cheated on? I'm not saying that. I'm saying maybe look at why it happened. What could you have done differently? I hung up and called my other friend, Luis. Surely he'd see how insane this was. Bro, I hate to say it, but Veronica's out of your league. Maybe she just outgrew you. So cheating is justified? I'm not saying it's right, Luis said, but maybe look at this as motivation. Hit the gym, get a better job, level up, you know? Use this as fuel. She's been lying to me for 2 months, Luis. 2 months of looking me in the eye and pretending everything was fine. Yeah, that sucks, but maybe ask yourself why she felt like she had to look elsewhere. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Both of my closest friends were essentially telling me I'd brought this on myself. That night I sat in our apartment, my apartment now, staring at the walls. 3 years together, gone. And apparently I was the problem. Everyone seemed to agree on that. I looked around at the life we'd built together. Photos on the walls of vacations I'd planned and paid for. Furniture we'd picked out together. The coffee maker I'd bought because she complained about instant coffee. Evidence of 3 years of trying to make her happy. Had I really been that bad of a boyfriend? Was I really as weak and pathetic as she claimed? I didn't argue. I didn't fight. I just smiled, grabbed my keys, and walked out. I drove aimlessly for hours, processing everything. By dawn, I'd made a decision. If everyone thought I needed to change, maybe they were right. But I'd do it my way, not theirs. The next few weeks passed in a blur. I threw myself into work with new intensity. Instead of just doing my job, I started looking for problems to solve, issues others had overlooked, inefficiencies that could be improved. I'd always been good at my job. I just never pushed beyond good enough. Why rock the boat? Why make waves? But with Veronica's words echoing in my head, I started making waves. I stayed late, came in early, volunteered for projects nobody else wanted. My boss noticed immediately. You've really stepped up lately, she said during our weekly check-in. This initiative you proposed for streamlining client communications? The partners are impressed. Trevor noticed too. He started making snide comments about my sudden motivation. Trying to impress someone new? He asked one Monday morning, leaning against my cubicle with his usual smug grin. Or just finally realizing you need to step up your game? Just doing my job, I replied, not looking up from my computer. Right. Well, don't worry about Veronica. She's in good hands now. Real hands. I turned to face him for the first time. Really looked at him. Expensive suit, gold watch, perfect hair, everything I'd never cared about before. Trevor, right? That's right. Interesting expense reports you've been filing lately. His grin faltered slightly. What do you mean? Nothing important. Just noticed some creative accounting in your client dinner receipts. You know, as someone who processes those reports, I tend to notice patterns. The color drained from his face. I don't know what you're talking about. Of course not. I returned to my work. Must be my mistake. But it wasn't a mistake. For months, I'd been processing Trevor's expense reports without really looking at them. It was just paperwork, just numbers. But when I started paying attention, the fraud was obvious. Dinners with clients who were out of town, hotel stays that didn't match his travel schedule, receipts that had been doctored. It was sloppy, careless work from someone who thought nobody was watching. I started documenting everything, every falsified expense report, every padded invoice, every small fraud that everyone just overlooked because Trevor was a high performer who brought in big clients. It wasn't revenge. At least that's what I told myself. It was just interesting. Professional curiosity about how someone could be so brazen about stealing from the company. 3 weeks later, I had enough evidence to fill a folder. Clear patterns of fraud going back almost a year. Thousands of dollars in false claims. I submitted my findings to HR on a Wednesday morning. This is very thorough work, said Patricia from HR as she reviewed my documentation. We'll need to investigate this immediately. Trevor was escorted out by security 2 days later. I watched from my desk as he packed his things, his face a mask of shock and rage. When his eyes met mine across the office, I saw something that made my blood run cold. Pure hatred. The promotion to his position was offered to me the following week. You've really impressed everyone with your attention to detail, my boss said during the meeting. The partners think you have real leadership potential. This comes with a significant salary increase and your own office, 40% more money, a corner office with a view. Everything Veronica had said I'd never achieve. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I felt empty. Veronica called that night, hysterical. How could you do this to him? To us? I didn't do anything except my job. You got him fired out of spite. This is pathetic revenge. I got him fired for stealing from the company. There's a difference. He wasn't stealing. Those were legitimate business expenses. Veronica, I have receipts for dinners with clients who were in different countries. Hotel stays that don't match any company travel. He was committing fraud. You're lying. I have documentation, spreadsheets, bank records, everything. There was silence on the line. This is all because you couldn't handle that I chose someone better than you, she said finally. You're proving exactly what I said about you. You're weak and petty and vindictive. If that's what you think, then we have nothing more to discuss. Trevor was right about you. He said you'd try something like this, that weak men always lash out when stronger men take what they want. I hung up. For the first time in weeks, I felt something other than emptiness. Not satisfaction exactly, more like clarity. The next few months brought changes I hadn't expected. With my new salary, I moved to a better apartment downtown, started going to the gym, not for revenge or to prove anything, but because I wanted to feel strong in my own body. I took cooking classes, learned Spanish, bought art that I actually liked instead of the safe beige prints Veronica had chosen for our apartment. I discovered I had opinions about things I'd never bothered to think about before. Dante and Luis kept calling, wanting to hang out, but their motivations felt transparent now. They wanted to be associated with my success, not support me as a friend. Their sudden interest in my life felt hollow. We should celebrate your promotion, Dante said during one call. I always knew you had it in you. Did you? Because I remember you telling me I was too passive. I was just trying to motivate you, man. Sometimes friends need to hear hard truths. Is that what you were doing? Being a friend? Of course. We've been through everything together since college. Have we? Or have I just been convenient to have around? The pause stretched too long. Come on, don't be like that. Let's grab dinner. Somewhere nice, you can afford it now. I started declining their invitations. At the gym, I met Carmen, a physical therapist who made me laugh during water breaks. She didn't know about my promotion or my salary or the drama with Veronica and Trevor. She just knew I made her smile when she had 10 minutes between patients. What do you do for work? She asked during our third conversation. Marketing. Nothing too exciting. Do you like it? I thought about that question. Did I like it? I'm good at it. And I'm learning. I like being good at things. She smiled. That's not the same thing as liking it. No, but it's a start. 6 months after Veronica left, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Trevor. We need to talk. I deleted it without responding. 2 days later, he showed up at my office building. Security called before he could reach my floor. Sir, there's someone here asking for you. Says it's urgent. What's his name? Trevor Morrison. Says it's about legal matters. Send him away. He's being persistent. Should I call the police? Not yet. Send him up, but stay close. Trevor looked awful when he walked into my office. Unshaven, cheap suit, desperate eyes. The BMW was probably long gone. The confident swagger had been replaced by barely contained panic. You destroyed my life, he said, standing in my doorway like he was afraid to come all the way in. I reported financial crimes. You destroyed your own life. I can't find work anywhere. Everyone knows what happened. My reputation is ruined. That's what happens when you steal from your employer. It wasn't stealing. Those were business expenses. Trevor, I have documentation of receipts you altered. Dinners with clients who were out of the country. Hotel charges that don't match any approved travel. You committed fraud for almost a year. His face crumpled. For a moment, he looked less like the predator who'd stolen my girlfriend and more like a cornered animal. I need money, he said quietly, for lawyers, to clear my name, to start over. I can't help you with that. You owe me. The desperation was bleeding through now. If you hadn't been so petty about Veronica, stop right there. I stood up, and he actually took a step back. This has nothing to do with Veronica. You stole money. I reported it. You faced consequences. That's how the world works. She never loved you, he spat, falling back on the only weapon he had left. She told me everything. How boring you were in bed. How she had to fake everything just to get through it. How relieved she was to finally be with a real man. 6 months ago, those words would have destroyed me. They would have confirmed every insecurity, every fear about my inadequacy that Veronica had planted in my head. Now I felt that same strange clarity I'd experienced when I hung up on her. Trevor, I said calmly, get out of my office. Don't come back. Don't contact me again. If you do, I'll call the police. This isn't over. Yes, it is. Security escorted him out. I watched from my window as he walked to the parking garage, shoulders slumped in defeat. I never expected to see him again. 3 months later, Carmen and I had been together for 4 months. She'd become something I didn't know I was looking for. A partner who challenged me without trying to change me, who supported my growth without demanding it. You seem different than when we first met, she said one evening as we cooked dinner together in my apartment. Different how? More solid, like you know who you are. I thought about that. I think I'm learning. What changed? I stopped trying to be what other people wanted me to be, started figuring out what I wanted to be. And what do you want to be? Honest, with myself and everyone else. I spent years pretending things were fine when they weren't, accepting treatment I shouldn't have accepted, making excuses for people who didn't deserve them. That sounds lonely. It was, but it was also safe. No conflict, no difficult conversations, no risk of anyone being disappointed in me. And now? Now I'd rather be alone than be with people who don't value me. She kissed me then, and I realized something that should have been obvious. This was what a healthy relationship felt like. Mutual respect, honest communication, support without conditions. Everything I'd thought I had with Veronica, but never actually did. A year later, things had settled into a new normal. Carmen and I were talking about moving in together. My career was thriving in ways I'd never imagined. I discovered I actually enjoyed the challenge of leadership, the satisfaction of solving complex problems. I'd run into Dante a few times around the city. The conversations were always awkward, both of us pretending things weren't different between us. Luis had moved to another state for work. We exchanged occasional texts, but the friendship felt like something from another lifetime. I was okay with that. I'd learned to value quality over history in relationships. Then came the phone calls. I woke up that Friday morning to 21 missed calls on my phone, all from Veronica. I almost deleted them without listening, but something about the number made me curious. 21 calls meant something was seriously wrong. I played the first voicemail. "Please call me back." Her voice was shaking. "It's urgent. It's about Trevor. God, I don't know how to say this. Something's happened. Something bad. Just call me back, please." The subsequent messages became increasingly frantic. "Why aren't you answering? This is important. Trevor's in the hospital. The police want to talk to you. Please, I know you hate me, but this isn't about us. This is bigger than that. He kept saying your name. Before they took him away, he kept saying he needed to apologize to you." The final message was barely coherent through her tears. "They found things in his apartment, pictures of you, plans. The police think he was going to hurt you, or himself, maybe both. Please call me back." I sat on the edge of my bed staring at the phone. Trevor in the hospital, pictures of me, plans. I called Carmen first. "Everything okay?" she asked. "You sound shaken. I might need to cancel our weekend plans. Something's come up with my ex." "The one who cheated?" "Her ex, actually. The guy she cheated with. He's apparently in the hospital, and the police want to talk to me." "Are you okay?" "I think so. I just need to figure out what's going on." "Do you want me to come with you?" The offer surprised me. In 3 years with Veronica, she'd never offered to support me through anything difficult. It was always about what I could do for her, never the other way around. "I appreciate that, but I should handle this alone. I'll call you later." "Of course. Be careful." I called Veronica back. "Thank God," she said immediately. "I didn't know who else to call." "What happened?" "Trevor tried to kill himself last night. Pills and alcohol. His neighbor heard him screaming and called 911. When the paramedics got there, he was barely conscious, but he kept saying your name, saying he needed to apologize to you. Is he going to be okay?" "Physically, yes, but mentally," she trailed off. "The police searched his apartment. They found photos of you everywhere, pictures of your building, your car, your gym, and notebooks full of plans." My blood ran cold. "What kind of plans?" "Ways to hurt you, or make you pay for ruining his life." The detective said some of it was incoherent, but there were detailed notes about your schedule, your routines. He'd been watching you for months. I sank into my kitchen chair. "Months? Since he got fired. Maybe longer. They think he was building up to doing something. The suicide attempt might have been because he couldn't go through with it." Jesus, there's more. They found evidence that he was in contact with other people, men who felt like they'd been screwed over by the system. They were encouraging each other, sharing strategies for getting revenge on the people they blamed, like a support group for potential killers. The detective called it grievance networking. Men who feel wronged finding each other online and reinforcing each other's anger until it becomes dangerous. I stared out my window at the city below. All those months of living my life, going to work, dating Carmen, building something new, and Trevor had been watching, planning, waiting. "The police want to interview you," Veronica continued, "to understand the timeline, see if you noticed anything suspicious. I saw him once. He came to my office a few months ago asking for money. Security had to escort him out." "Did he threaten you then?" "Not directly, but he was angry, desperate. I remembered the hatred in his eyes as he left. I should have reported it. Don't blame yourself. Nobody could have predicted this. But that wasn't true, was it? I'd seen his desperation, his rage. I'd just assumed it would burn itself out. 2 hours later, I was sitting in a sterile police station conference room across from Detective Rodriguez, a tired-looking woman with kind eyes and a notepad full of questions. "Mr. Chen tells us you reported financial irregularities that led to Mr. Morrison's termination. Can you walk me through that timeline?" I explained the whole thing, discovering Trevor's fraudulent expense reports, documenting the evidence, submitting it to HR. "Was this motivated by personal animosity? Your girlfriend's affair?" "Ex-girlfriend. And no, I found evidence of actual crimes. The personal situation was separate. But you knew about the affair when you made the report?" "Yes, that must have been difficult. A lot of people might have wanted revenge in that situation." I met her eyes. "Detective, Trevor was stealing from my company. Whether or not he was sleeping with my girlfriend doesn't change that. I did my job," she made notes. "Tell me about his visit to your office." I described Trevor's desperate state, his request for money, his threats that this isn't over. "Did you feel threatened?" "Honestly, I felt nothing, which probably should have been a warning sign." "What do you mean?" 6 months earlier, seeing him would have devastated me. But by then, I just didn't care about him anymore. I think that might have been worse for him than if I'd been angry." Rodriguez nodded. In his notes, he writes about how you looked through him like he was nothing. That seemed to bother him more than outright hostility would have. She showed me printed screenshots from Trevor's phone, messages to people with usernames like Victim of the System and Justice Seeker 47. She stole my girl, then destroyed my career. Now he acts like I don't exist, like I'm beneath his notice. The disrespect is worse than the damage. Who is he talking to in these messages? Men with similar grievances, job losses, relationship problems, financial difficulties. They found each other through online forums and started reinforcing each other's sense of victimhood. Rodriguez flipped through more pages. Mr. Morrison's posts became increasingly violent over time. The group was encouraging him to take action against you. What kind of action? Initially, ideas about exposing you somehow, ruining your reputation the way he felt you'd ruined his. But when that didn't seem feasible, the suggestions became more direct. She showed me a message thread that made my skin crawl. Sometimes the only language these people understand is violence. He took everything from you. Take something from him. How seriously should I take this threat? I asked. Very seriously. We've arrested 2 other members of this group in the past year for harassment and stalking. One of them firebombed his former supervisor's car. Jesus. The good news is that Mr. Morrison's suicide attempt seems to have broken the spell, so to speak. He's being evaluated for psychiatric treatment, and we're monitoring the other group members. The bad news? There are always more groups like this, and your information is out there now. You should be careful for a while. I left the police station feeling like the ground had shifted beneath my feet. For months, I'd been living normally while someone watched my every move, documenting my routines, planning to hurt me. Carmen was waiting at my apartment when I got home. I know you said you wanted to handle this alone, she said, but I was worried. I told her everything. About Trevor's surveillance, the online group, the plans they'd found in his apartment. How do you feel about all this? She asked when I finished. Honestly, grateful. If he hadn't attempted suicide, if his neighbor hadn't called 911, who knows what might have happened? Are you scared? I should be, but mostly I'm just tired. Tired of this whole situation, tired of carrying the weight of other people's bad decisions. What do you mean? Veronica cheated, but somehow I was the problem for not being exciting enough. Trevor stole money, but I was the villain for reporting it. Now he's been stalking me for months, and part of me wonders if people will say I brought that on myself too. Carmen was quiet for a moment. Do you think you brought it on yourself? No, I reported a crime. Everything that happened after that was Trevor's choice. Then that's what matters, not what other people think. It's taken me a long time to understand that. 2 weeks later, Detective Rodriguez called with an update. Trevor had been transferred to a psychiatric facility for long-term treatment. The other group members had been charged with various crimes: harassment, cyberstalking, making terroristic threats. We found the complete extent of Mr. Morrison's surveillance, she said. Photos, video, detailed logs of your activities going back 8 months. He knew your schedule better than you probably did. How is that possible? Modern technology makes it easier than you'd think. Phone cameras, social media check-ins, credit card records if someone knows how to access them. He was obsessed. Will he be released? Not anytime soon. The psychiatric evaluation found severe depression with paranoid and obsessive features. He'll be hospitalized indefinitely. I should have felt relief. Instead, I felt sadness for everyone involved. Trevor had destroyed his life chasing revenge that wouldn't have fixed anything. Veronica had lost years to a relationship built on lies. I'd almost become a victim of violence because I'd done the right thing. There's something else, Rodriguez continued. We found evidence that your friends, Dante and Luis, were in contact with Mr. Morrison. My blood went cold. What kind of contact? Nothing criminal, but they'd been feeding him information about you, your promotion, your new apartment, your relationship status, probably without realizing how he was using it. They knew he was unstable? Mr. Morrison reached out to them, claiming he wanted to make amends, asked them to help him understand what you'd been up to since the incident at work. They thought they were helping him move on. By giving him personal information about me, they seemed to have genuinely believed they were helping, but their information helped him track your patterns. I hung up feeling sick. My closest friends had been unwittingly helping my stalker monitor my life. That evening, I called Dante. I heard about what happened with Trevor, he said before I could speak. Crazy stuff, man. Who would have thought he'd snap like that? You gave him information about me. Silence. The police told me you'd been talking to him, telling him about my promotion, my apartment, my girlfriend. He said he wanted to apologize to you, that he was trying to get his life together and needed to make amends, so you decided to help him without asking me? I thought it would be good for both of you. Closure, you know? Dante, he was stalking me for months. The information you gave him helped him track my movements. I didn't know. How was I supposed to know he was crazy? Maybe by asking me if I wanted to hear from him instead of making that decision for me. Come on, don't blame me for his problems. I'm not blaming you for his problems. I'm blaming you for giving personal information about me to someone I'd explicitly cut contact with. You're overreacting. I was trying to help. Oh, were you? Or were you trying to insert yourself into drama that had nothing to do with you? The question hung in the air. This is ridiculous, Dante said finally. We're friends. Friends help each other. Friends respect each other's boundaries. Friends don't share personal information without permission. Friends support each other instead of enabling stalkers. I hung up. Luis's conversation was almost identical. Same justifications, same refusal to take responsibility, same claims that I was overreacting. I blocked both their numbers. A month later, Veronica called one final time. I wanted you to know I'm moving back home, she said, to my parents' place in Oregon. Okay, I also wanted to apologize. Really apologize, not the half-hearted stuff I said before. You don't need to. Yes, I do. I cheated on you. Then I blamed you for the consequences of my actions. I convinced myself you were the problem because it was easier than admitting I was wrong. Why are you telling me this now? Because I spent the last year watching what my choices cost everyone. You, me, Trevor. And I realized I never took responsibility for starting this whole mess. Trevor made his own choices. Yes, but I created the situation that broke him. If I hadn't cheated, if I hadn't made you both feel like you were competing for something. Veronica, Trevor was stealing money before you even met him. His problems weren't about you. Maybe not, but I made everything worse by the way I handled things. What are you looking for here? Forgiveness? I don't know. Maybe just to say I'm sorry without expecting anything back. Then consider it said. Are you happy? She asked suddenly. Yeah, I am. Good. You deserve that. After she hung up, I sat in my apartment thinking about forgiveness. Not the performative kind that people demand to make themselves feel better, but the quiet kind that happens when you stop carrying other people's mistakes. I forgave Veronica for cheating. I forgave Trevor for his obsession. I forgave Dante and Luis for their betrayal. Not because they deserved it, but because I deserved to stop carrying their weight. 6 months later, Carmen and I were engaged. The proposal was simple. Dinner at the restaurant where we'd had our first real date, followed by a walk through the park where she'd first made me laugh. Are you sure about this? She asked, admiring the ring. Marriage is a big step. I'm sure about you. I'm sure about us. Everything else we can figure out together, even if things get difficult, especially then. I spent 3 years in a relationship where problems were always my fault and solutions were always my responsibility. I want a partnership where we face things together. What if I disappoint you? Then we'll talk about it like adults. What if I disappoint you? Same thing. It seemed so simple, and maybe that was the point. These days, I wake up in our shared apartment, make coffee for both of us, and plan my day without worrying about who I might disappoint or what people might think of my choices. I run a marketing team at my company now. I mentor younger employees who remind me of my former self, talented but afraid to make waves. I tell them what I wish someone had told me. Doing the right thing isn't always popular, but it's always worth it. Sometimes I think about that night when Veronica confessed. How small I felt. How convinced I was that everyone else was right about me needing to change. They weren't wrong that I needed to change. They were wrong about what needed changing. I didn't need to become more aggressive or successful or dominant. I needed to become more selective about who I let into my life and how much of their opinions I valued. The real man Veronica claimed to be looking for was never someone who would fight harder or provide better things. It was someone who knew his own worth and wouldn't negotiate it away for anyone's approval. And it turns out, he was there all along.